What's up, what's up, what's up? It's your boy Domuto back with another video. Today we're watching Dragon Ball Kakumei. And today, watching the Grand Priest Unstable. Gohan joins the Pride Troopers and Vegeta trains. Okay. Gohan joins the Pride Troopers. That seems very fitting for a Gohan, you know what I'm saying? And Vegeta, of course, going to train. Alright, let's get into it.
As we kick off the Dragon Ball Kakumei manga chapter number 6 special with Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta having to be shown welcoming Planet Sadala Saiyans, with everyone else having to be shown standing there and wondering as to what they were going to do next, Vegeta did in fact mean business and he was not willing to let up against any of the Saiyans, as he further went on to tell them, "Leave if you want to, you cowards, but I won't even be able to look you in the eye, so don't come crying the day the enemy knocks on your door to kill your people." But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of the Saiyan admirals, just as Vegeta had gone on and saying this, had showed up behind Vegeta and telling him, "Now you're facing us." But then, unbeknownst to one of the admirals, Vegeta was in fact so fast that the admiral wasn't able to do anything in being able to stop Vegeta during this moment, because just as the admiral had gone and slowly having to turn his head, it was only then during that moment was when Vegeta had taken it upon himself to set the example in casually being shown having to strike the admiral in the stomach with such a casual punch that you can almost kind of see the pain emanating from the admiral's face, which again, Vegeta isn't necessarily trying to kill or severely harm any of the admirals there, but he simply wants to go on ahead and prove himself, improving his loyalty, improving his strength to the remaining Saiyans that are there, in order for them to kind of see as to how far ahead he is by comparison to them. As with the first admiral shown having to fly past everyone, all of a sudden, the second admiral had then showed up behind Vegeta again, as he too was looking to make a difference by blasting Vegeta from behind, but once again, to no avail. Vegeta didn't even move even after having to be struck from behind, so instead, through the smoke, Vegeta had emerged in them being shown having to knee the second admiral directly in the stomach, in not only demonstrating his durability, but demonstrating his speed alongside with his cunning wit to be able to endure everything that these Saiyans were able to throw at him until, once again, the third admiral had attempted to attack Vegeta from behind, but Vegeta had proven himself once again in being able to duck on under and grabbing onto the floor, and then being shown having to kick the admiral in the stomach, and essentially having to render all three of them immobile by simply having to go as far as to use 3 simple moves, which pretty much went on to confirm everything that Vegeta had been telling the Saiyans of Universe 6, as a giant boulder was then shown having to crash down on everyone. Vegeta meant serious business by what he wanted to do in helping the Universe 6 Saiyans, but given the fact that they were so doubtful in Vegeta's loyalty and doubting his ability to even make a difference, as the other Saiyans took it upon themselves in observing as to what had happened, Vegeta went on to take notice of this, as he then went on to respond, "You look at me like a monster, a bloodthirsty beast. Do you understand what it's like not to be able to protect your own against an enemy that is far too dangerous?" But even then, without even having to notice, one of the boulders that had came crashing down on Admiral number 3 was then beginning to be seen cracking, until then, out of nowhere, all of a sudden the giant rock had then exploded, as through it, it would only then appear as though how one of the admirals was finally then able to transform into a Super Saiyan, as she went on to comment, "Sorry, my king, I had no other choice." As the moment she was then shown having to dash right towards Vegeta again, she then went on to shout, "Come on, guys, transform!" as in fact the other admirals did, because even as they themselves were shown having to slowly get up, all of a sudden, just like Admiral number 3, everyone was then being able to shown having to finally transform into a Super Saiyan, which deeply had pleased Vegeta, as he was shown smiling, because this was Vegeta's intention the entire time, as during the middle of this moment, King Sadala went on to chime in, "Repugnant. The only thing you can count on these days are robots. You are all more disappointing than each other," he says. "All that drama," Vegeta chimes in, "let us settle our accounts. It's better for But then, without even wanting to hear anything else that Vegeta had said, King Sadala went on to shout, "Silence! Settle your accounts," he adds. "I do not care. But never use this demonic form on my planet," he adds. "If I catch you again, I will banish you," King Sadala tells them, which subsequently enough, King Sadala appears as though he didn't want any of the other Universe 6 Saiyans in using the Super Saiyan transformation, which was why he basically had threatened in outcasting them, as of course they were then shown reverting back down to base form, with Vegeta also then being shown having to do the same. He then proceeded on turning around and responding, "Come, Bulma." As all the while, in the meantime, elsewhere in Universe 6, we then see how both Frost and Hit seem to be dwelling within this massive cave, which, mind you, appears to have somewhat of a beast or a monster lurking within the waters within it,
fuck
because
is that?
it appears as though out of all of the relationships and establishments formulated so far, both Frost and Hit seem to have one of the most unsteady and destabilizing relationships so far, because Hit really doesn't trust Frost, Frost doesn't really trust Hit, which was as they were shown moving throughout this cave, Hit had then noticed how one of these monsters had descended on down into the water, where subsequently enough, this monster had looked as though he wanted to make his move on an unsuspecting Hit, as with the monster shown having to swim around and then having to emerge, he then went on to comment, "I've been swimming at full speed for about 20 minutes. I lost them for sure," he adds, but then, as the creature itself had assumed that he in fact had lost Hit and Frost out of nowhere from behind him, Hit was shown having to just so casually stand there and watching as this individual was swimming, as with the creature then quickly turning around in attempting to attack Hit, it was only then when Frost went on to shout, "Now! The time lag!" And that's exactly what Hit had done, because what Hit had managed to do was lock this creature in his time cage, as of course he managed to throw a couple of rocks, which interestingly enough, as this creature was caught within the time cage, he was still able to maneuver the exact rock that Hit had dodged in redirecting it towards Hit, until then out of nowhere Frost had stepped in wanting to prove to Hit that in fact he can be trusted, as Frost went on to shoot the rock by responding, "You're welcome." So again, these two have such a destabilizing relationship.
Damn, Hit, let
that
your guard down like
fundamentally
that?
mainly built on loyalty, and that's exactly what Frost is trying to prove to Hit, that in fact he is trustworthy, that in fact he is loyal. Until then, Hit was finally shown having to turn around and shooting the creature through the heart with one of his energy blasts, in basically giving us what the pair would look like if they were in fact ultimately able to work together, to where as we then see them on a planet called Planet Dow, there were these creatures that kind of resembled that of either Frost's race or Frieza's race, which was interesting to say the least, because Hit was shown having to hide behind a few houses, he was shown maneuvering through the trees, and I really like this because it kind of gives off the elements that Hit was on the hunt in wanting to assassinate someone, because as Hit slowly went on to aim his fingers in finding his target, he was then ready to make his move, until then out of nowhere, the target that he had acquired was then shot by another individual, and this went on to take Hit back, because the moment Hit saw who it came from none other than Frost, as Frost went on to respond, "It's super easy to be an assassin actually. What's your problem?" Hit asks. You can't hit your targets anymore," he asks, "or am I just better than you?" Frost responds. "You will leave me alone from here on until the end of time. Have I made myself clear?" "Ouch, oh my," Frost says. "It hurts like hell. I accept, under one condition. Prove your superiority to me," Frost says. "Come on and fight." Which was awfully odd in the fact that Frost was taking this sort of like a game, because Hit almost looked as though
Frost,
he
you know who
didn't
you
want
fighting,
anything
nigga?
to do with Frost, while at the same time, Frost kind of wants to get something out of Hit, as of course he wants Hit to prove himself to him.
Hit, don't hurt him too hard.
In the meantime, within the Grand Priest's palace, we then take a look at how the Grand Priest was shown having to sit on the throne, and something seems to be off about him, because in a weird way, the Grand Priest seems to be struggling with something, as one of the Omni King's guards went on to step in by asking, "Grand Priest, I have tried everything to cover you, but the kings will find out sooner or later." It's not that big of a deal," the Grand Priest says. "Do not put yourself in any more danger." "Right," the Omni King guard says. As with the Grand Priest shown struggling, it looks as though he's trying his best in some way, shape, or form to maintain and keep captive the other gods of destructions and angels that were sealed away by him, as all the while within Universe 11, it appears as though Gohan seems to be sitting down with God of Destruction Toppo, Angel Margarita, and Jiren, as they seem to be overseeing something which turns out to be none other than Belmont's corpse, with Belmont's corpse being shown having to be mummified, as of course there was a bit of energy being shown entering Margarita's staff. There was either a transfer of power happening or something going on to where it prompted Toppo in having to stomp his foot on down to the floor, because even then Gohan went on to ask if Belmont is, but Jiren went on to stop Gohan by telling him Margarita has no right to bring him back to life, nor to discredit his years accumulated at once, he says. Nevertheless, there is still hope that Lord Belmont is still with us, and if so, she's keeping him alive at the moment. "I see," Gohan says. "That said, now that I'm here, you know how much I share your sense of justice, which is why I'd love to join the Pride Troopers," he says. "You picked the wrong time if you ask me," Jiren says, and Gohan is taken back as he goes on to plead with Jiren by telling him, "I sincerely apologize. I shouldn't have bothered you all at this time." But then something went on to catch Jiren's attention, as Jiren responds, "It's nothing." "Gohan," Toppo says, "we're a bit on edge because we had to rush the Divine Immortality Passing ritual, but we don't blame you personally," as Jiren Jiren chimes in any case, we can't integrate you into the Pride Troopers simply on your request, he says. So, if you accepted, you'll come on a mission with us, and we'll evaluate you. With Gohan responding, I accept with great pleasure. Thank you, Jiren. But that's when Dispo went on to snap his fingers and telling everyone, silence. I can hear his breath, Dispo says. Lord Belmont is alive!
Big ass ear, you better hear that motherfucker.
Back, which even I myself am beginning to put this into question, because as to why they're now deciding to bring Belmont back is beyond me, because in my own opinion, I do believe that Belmont should stay dead in order to further acclimate Topo in being the next god of destruction. But even then, as all of this unfolds back on Earth within Monster Island, we then take a look at how Android 17 seems to be doing something until something seemed to have crash landed on 17's island, as this individual turned out to be none other than one of the Universe 3 scientists, to where as he was then shown having to exit his ship, he then responds, damn robot, it's going to take a few more tweaks obviously. Anyway, here's to us, 17. You're that guy from Universe 3, Pepperami, right? And this took Pepperami back, because the last thing he was expecting was for 17 to be standing there as 17 continues, what are you doing on my island?
I like this. I like the interaction. I like this.
My tracer indicated that beep beep, you have arrived, beep beep. I see. Pepperoni 17, he says. I'm here because I have a proposition for you. How about teaming up with me? I went so far as to create an android based on the DNA off the Supreme Kai of my universe to come to yours.
Oh, shit.
And to get to me, you took my DNA too, 17 asks. Just the hair of nothing, he responds. Don't you dare do it again, 17 says. Alright, Pepperoni adds, and I'm not interested in your proposal, 17 responds. But take a step back, Pepperoni says. Think about your family. How will you defend them? I don't need you to defend them, 17 responds.
Oh shit. Talk your shit, 17.
Do you have any idea who your enemies are this time? It doesn't matter, 17 says. If you die, that's how it goes. And Pepperoni is baffled, because the last thing that he was expecting was for 17 to say no, until 17 had overheard one of his sons having to call for him, as 17 went on to spot both of his children by responding, Sapphire and Pearl, what are you doing here? I took them to play. Android 17's wife then pops in by telling him, and we overheard you talking, darling. Mama, Dad, we don't want to die, and we don't want you to die either. No one's going to die, 17's wife says. We have many years of joy left, and 17 was then beginning to remember all of his family's history, his playtime with his children, his wife, his future, as he finally then stopped to reconsider, as 17 comments, well, what's the plan, Pepperoni? And with Pepperoni then shown smiling, it was only then during that moment where 17 had accepted where the Dragon Ball Super Kakumei manga chapter number 6 special then comes to a close. Now, what I really enjoyed about this chapter, outside of course all of its intricate details and having to create all of these beautiful landscapes, was seeing how we got 3 different perspectives from 17, from Gohan, from Hits, and kind of finding out what they were doing, as all the while we got to see what Vegeta was up to, which now begs the question as to what they're going to do, because the only thing I did not like about this chapter was seeing how they were kind of going about this narrative in wanting to bring Belmont back, which again, I really don't see the point to, especially with Topo now being that god of destruction. But even then, this creates so much more excitement for me in finding out what Gohan's going to do, in finding out what Vegeta's next move is going to be, in seeing Hit versus Frost this time around, to kind of get a better idea as to where all of this confidence seems to be stemming from Frost, in a sense to where he seems to be treating Hit like a lightweight and forgetting what Hit is capable of. So down the
it probably won't be a one-sided, like super one-sided, but yeah, Hit about to cook that nigga. I don't give a fuck. Gohan with the Pride Trooper, we gonna see. And Gohan gonna challenge the big dogs, Topo, Jiren. He can whoop Dispo. Fuck Dispo. We don't care about Dispo. He weak. But everybody else, but you know, we care about Jiren and Topo. You know what I'm saying? That's it. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to see Gohan get a new form or something. I don't know why King Sadala said I want to see why he said that was so demonic, the form. So, hey, till next time, you know what I'm saying? Watch the last chapter right here. Check another story right here. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.